And we are live. We're back. It's been a while. It's good to be back. It admittedly took me a minute to sort of get this stuff all set up because I'd almost forgotten how to do it. But we're back. It is as James says. Yes, it is Yojo June. There's lots to talk about. I suppose we just dive right into it. Smiler67, hey, what's going on, buddy? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you guys here. Now on YouTube. So hopefully this sort of works. Hopefully people jump on. Hopefully people kind of figure out that I'm not doing these on Facebook anymore. Well, that being said, there may be a little bit less Northern Outpost group specific stuff and more sort of general classified stuff, and sort of allows me a little bit as well to just do some more general GI Joe stuff or different toy stuff or what have you. So let me know what you guys think, whether you like the idea or not. But for the time being, let's get into it. It's been a while. Like I said, I've been away for, well, I haven't been away. I've been at home with a new baby. So I've been very, very busy. I've been trying to keep up with what's going on, but missing a little bit of stuff here and there. What's going on, Tristan? How's it going, buddy? While I was away, I guess the biggest thing while I was away was the was Mindbender popping up. And I have to give a few shout outs for sure. A few people messaged me and said, hey, did you see that Mindbender popped up on GameStop for pre-order? I hadn't, so I was really, really lucky to get a pre-order in for that. Now that remains to be seen whether or not we see that figure, in June or in July or in December. I think I've even seen it listed for December release. But I suspect that December is kind of the worst case scenario in the way that Hasbro's sort of been projecting delivery dates to be quite a bit later, further out. And that just allows them to get more product into the market, get more orders fulfilled, so on and so forth. I do think that it will be, June or July that we see that figure for sure. Shout out to a couple other people. Big shout out to David Bax, who can't join us today because he's got to work. But David Bax and Elve sent me a couple. They sent me a couple gifts for my son. I don't have them. I don't have on hand. David sent me some little onesies, GI Joe onesies, for the little guy, which is awesome. And Elve sent me a very generous gift, which I have to say thank you for. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. And it was completely unnecessary, but I'm very thankful for that. So thank you guys for that. But let's just get into Yojo June. What do we expect? What have we seen already? What's coming up? All that kind of stuff. We're gonna go for about an hour, and we'll see where we get as usual. It might go longer, might be shorter. Just depends on sort of what we have to talk about. So, Tristan All is great with the new baby. He is he's an awesome little dude. He doesn't quite have his schedule right. He does a lot of sleeping during the day and not so much of his sleeping during the night. How's it going, Larry? So Yojo June kicked off June 1st, this past week, with an Instagram live. Now, I know I'm not the only one that is not completely technologically savvy. I do know that there are several people that didn't even see the live because they just didn't really know how to kind of get there. Instagram live for a brand like GI Joe, I think is optimistic on the Hasbro team's part. I think Facebook is a safer bet. I think YouTube is a safer bet, and I think going forward, they've done a few of them though. They've done they did a couple for the HasLab Sky Striker on Instagram as well. And if you're paying attention and you sort of know how to get there, great. But if not, you might not have even seen it. I think I saw that they posted the stream onto YouTube, so you can watch it after the fact. Um, but anyway, the sort of news there was, that essentially the big news, or at least my sort of takeaway for what the biggest news was that going forward, they are going to be announcing, they're going to be announcing the names of the characters. So they're going to be announcing which characters are essentially in the pipeline before we get digital renders, before we get physical reveals, before we get pre-orders, before we get anything. And so, I asked in the group in the weekly poll, if people like that or not, and it seems as though the majority of people don't. And I would have to. I mean, I want to know all the information all the time because that's just who I am. But there is some. It almost just makes it like one more step further out of sort of prolonging the agony of when we're going to get the figures in hand. The delivery date is really the only date that ultimately matters. I mean, getting them in our dirty, greedy little hands is really what matters, right? Essentially. So, um, to have sort of the name released and then a digital render and then a physical reveal and then a pre-order and then a hurry up and wait and then delivery. Um, it just it just sort of extends that timeline of how long we have to wait. um, and I don't mind waiting, but um, I also think all of that's a little bit drawn out. I think they could just say, "Hey, here's the new figure. This is what you get. Here's the pre-order for it. Away you go." Um, but yes, Tristan, you make a very valid point, and that was going to be sort of the next thing that I was going to say. They're trying to stay ahead of leakers as well. I know Transformers has had a lot of leaks this past year. It's hard not to. In the age that we live in the world that we live in, we're not completely computer savvy, but there's a lot of people that are. And so people are finding pictures or sort of finding sources to get some of this information from. And ultimately, a lot of times, the leaks get out, so people know which characters are coming, and there's characters. There's leaked character names for a lot of characters that are expected now for the rest of this year. They're getting ahead. They're really jumping the gun. I mean, they're saying 2023 that we are going to get these figures. Now, an interesting point was made. Hey, Christopher McLeod. You haven't missed much, buddy. Don't worry. An interesting, comment was made by Tyler Smart, who said, we get the names revealed, but we don't necessarily know the order. So these could be figures. They said 2023. These could be figures for December 2023, right? These might be the ones at the end of the year. So it could just be, you know, um, it could be a way to sort of just distract people, put them off the scent, and there's still going to be surprises. I think we're still going to see. They're talking about stuff that's coming for 2023, but there's also figures that we're sort of expecting for 2022, which they didn't mention, which we can sort of get into um, in a minute. But just uploading a new Intel episode for the patrons. So as I talk about how I'm happy to wait and I don't necessarily need all the information now, I'm now salivating to sort of see what the Intel is. And if you don't know what the Intel what I'm talking about, Full Force Podcast Patreon group, you can get some news from some of Chris's sources. And so, like I said, there's figures coming in 2022 that haven't been announced yet. So they're giving us names for 2023, but there's still more on the docket, as it were, for 2022. Transformers are having stuff stolen from I assume that means factory before the release date. Yeah, I mean, that's a really, serious thing, right? Like I think there's probably an issue too in terms of, the stuff is being produced before it's being announced, because It has to be. That's just the way that sort of the logistics of it work. That's sort of the time frame that they're dealing with. So this stuff is in production, whether it's in prototype or sampling or the test shots or what have you. um, the stuff is in production for a while before it kind of gets to the point of a physical reveal. So there's always the danger that somebody gets some. It even happens. We've seen a few of the classified figures show up on certain shelves, whether it's internationally or at some random Walmart, where they're ahead of release date or what have you. Um, Super Sevens reaction figures, right, are popping up with variants without anything getting leaked, without anything getting spoiled. So it is. I mean, it is possible to sort of get stuff to market without it coming, without it getting out, without pictures or sort of leaks information or what have you. Um, but it's increasingly harder in an increasingly sort of shrinking world in terms of how quickly information gets disseminated. So. Um, but the big news, the big reveals for figures for 2023 were, of course, Shipwreck and Rock and Roll. Now, no mention of which versions we were gonna get. But what do you guys think? Well, those two figures, like, are you excited for those figures? Were you hoping for somebody else? Do you really even care? And by that I mean, are you more curious what we're gonna actually get, in Yojo June for physical reveals and digital renders and pre-orders, or is it sort of the what's coming, way down the line of much interest? Um, I'm very excited for Rock and Roll. Rock and Roll is one of my favorite figures. He's been on my sort of list of most wanted characters for a while. Shipwreck is kind of a no-brainer. I think I think there's been a massive demand for it. I've seen lots of customs. People have done a lot of customs for Shipwreck. So I think it was. I mean, it's only a matter of time before I think both of those characters got into the line. Chris, very excited for Shipwreck. But if it's version 1 Rock and Roll, then it'll just be okay for me. Yeah, I think you said you want version 2 more than any other version, right? So, in version 2, I think is maybe the more iconic. Is a little more unique. Yeah, I expect it to be version 1 based on the recent design shift to the OG. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense too, in the sense that I think I based on parts that are already existing, pre-existing molds and things like that, I think it's an easier assumption to say that Rock and Roll version 1 will be the version that they do. Quite simply because we've already got Breaker and we've got Stalker and we've got Snake Eyes and we've got a lot of those version 1 inspired designs already. It just sort of makes practical sense. Um, Happy to know Shipwreck and Rock and Roll are in the pipeline, but I'm excited for Yojo June. Yeah, absolutely. Shipwreck and Rock and Roll version 1. Version 2, just way more for it. Better accessories, cooler design, more interesting color palette. Yes, I agree. And I mean, I have both on my shelf. Actually, that's not true. I have Rock and Roll version 1 on my shelf. I have Rock and Roll version 2 in the medical bay. His O-ring snapped, so I have to replace the O-ring. But yeah, those sort of dual sort of handheld Gatling guns, the backpack with the ammo belts, his cap with the sort of bullet belt on there. Um, yeah, absolutely, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more to the figure for sure. But that isn't to say that we won't get that version. If we do get version 1, it's not to say that we won't get version 2, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at Shipwreck as well, because there's kind of a couple versions that I really like. The sort of classic original sailor look is probably the more probably the more in demand of the sort of versions, if you will. But I prefer the other one. I prefer, the sweater and the beanie cap and stuff like that. Smiler67, with the release of Tiger Force Outback, I think rock and roll have great look, whatever version they decide. Yes, yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that like I've not been disappointed with any versions or any decos that they've used. But let's just quickly bring this up. Um, so here is all the versions of rock and roll basically. You've got version 1 and version 1.5 is effectively version 1. Um, I mean, it's a very simple figure. There's not much to it. He's just sort of a green shirt, but he's got those. I do love the ammo belts. So if they do version 1, I'm curious to see how they do those and what they do with those, because I think those will be great pieces for kit bashing, for customizing. Um, version 2, which I think is the other iconic design, is it. I think you could still do this though with parts reuse, right? You've got the shorter sleeves now. Like Rakondo's got those short sleeves now, the shortest in the line so far. But you could use sort of the Rakondo base figure and essentially just put a new harness, new sort of belt system, stuff like that. And I think um, you can very easily get that deco. Apart from that, like version 3 had version 2 with sort of a redeco. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I mean, maybe not for everybody. But then, he kind of went through a few versions that were less desirable, or kind of just reimagining the pre-existing versions, really. So there's not a lot there. Like there's not a lot of options in terms of which version they're going to do. It's really version 1 or version 2, isn't it? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's one or the other, really. Looks like we're moving into the facial hair figures. Yeah, I mean, we've got, what do we get so far? We got like Bazooka and Rakondo, Gung Ho. So we got all the mustachioed men, and now we're sort of moving into the bearded, the bearded guys, I guess. Which I don't mind. It's um. But for me, I think, oh, what did that, whoops. I think of the shipwreck having more options and sort of more potential for what they might do. I mean, I think version 1 is probably a lock. I think this is the most iconic shipwreck. This is the one from the cartoons. This is the one that everybody sort of recognizes. You had this sort of scuba diver versions for versions 2, 3, 4. But then you got, and I like when they sort of got into this look, the sort of, I don't know if this is sort of a real outfit that somebody is gonna wear. I think the iconic version 1, and where I'm like with all the kit. I mean, you get Polly. We'll get, he'll probably have that the holster will probably be able to hold the gun. I don't know if they'll do the little rope thing, whatever, the boarding hooks. And I don't know how they'll do it. So it'll be interesting to see. If I had my way, I would want something like this. Now that being said, just like I said with rock and roll, if we get version 1 of Shipwreck, there's no reason to believe that we wouldn't get a version like this, later on down the line, because I think you have to do the iconic versions first. Yeah, absolutely. The homeless look and Stinky Diver. I think if we get a Stinky Diver, we're probably more likely to get a wetsuit or deep six or something like that, before we would get, shipwreck as a scuba diver. That's just that's my sort of inclination. Um, Need Leatherneck. Yeah, I mean, there's still a long list, right? There's still a long list of figures, and that was the other thing that I was sort of looking at and sort of thinking about, um, was, and I'm not sure why. Normally, it gives me a nice option to um, share a different page without having to. Yeah, StreamYard's. Man, I'm out of practice here. I can't get StreamYard to work the way that I want it to. Look at Spirit's torso, lighter blue, could easily be used for shipwreck. Yes, exactly. And I think, Recondo could be recolored too. Like I said, you could still use the Duke torso. You could use Flint's torso. They're all similar enough. It just depends on sort of which build you want to go with, I guess. Um, I would like to see shipwreck, with Recondo's build. He seems to be a little bit slimmer, a little bit slighter. Having a sarcastic character just be a little bit, less physically imposing just seems to kind of make sense to me, but that's just personal preference. Um, but what I wanted to get into, and let me see if I can figure out how to do that, because, like I said, StreamYard's it's not working for me here. Let's bear with me. Normally, I can just click between different tabs, and it lets me sort of switch. I could have just switched the page. Now that I think of it, the sort of let the speculation begin, right? Of like what's next. So I was looking at the figures year by year. We're sort of going through a lot of the original characters, of the OG figures. Vehicle drivers aside, we've got Breaker, we've got the officer, we've got the trooper slash infantry. We're getting rock and roll. We've got Scarlet, we've got Snake Eyes, we've got Stalker. So there's a few more green shirts that we haven't gotten yet. Cobra Commander we already got. So that's 82. We're more than halfway through 82. 83, we got Destro, we got Gung Ho, we got Major Blood. So there's a bunch in 83 that I think we could get. As far as vehicle drivers too, I think Cover Girl is sort of the standout as far as a figure that we will probably see. Not necessarily with the Wolverine, right? But as a standalone figure. Doc, I could see sooner rather than later. We've talked about Doc a whole bunch. Snow Job, I could see sooner rather than later. Torpedo, I would be willing to bet that we would see Wetsuit before we would see Torpedo. I just think, I think I think Wetsuit is maybe a more iconic figure. He was sort of more, or at least to me, he seemed to be in the cartoon more. Tripwire, I would love to see. I think that would be a cool figure. And then moving into 84, we've got Baroness, we got Duke, we got Firefly, we got Recondo, we got Roadblock, we got Spirit, we got Storm Shadow. So we're, Scrap Iron, Charbroil, or sorry, Blowtorch, that's not Charbroil. Blowtorch, Scrap Iron, Mutton Junkyard, and Ripcord. So, and then vehicle drivers, I mean, we got Zartan, and of the vehicle drivers, I mean, he's kind of the one I think that stands out as a figure that that is sort of an obvious one that doesn't need a vehicle. Clutch is in there, the Stinger drivers in there. There's some Wild Weasels in there. Do you guys need a Wild Weasel if we don't have a Rattler? I mean, that's kind of that's where I sort of get into the territory of figures that I don't necessarily need. Wild Weasel's a great design, but if they never made Wild Weasel because they never made a Rattler, I wouldn't be that upset. Just saying. Tristan, kind of want Shipwreck version 1 with the trench coat he had on in the BSA. Yeah, maybe. Or like the snakeling versions. Hopefully they do that so that the heads sort of are interchangeable. Wetsuit would be amazing and have a lot of cool accessories. Yes, and I think the color palette would be so cool. You know, the sort of turquoise and orange and white. I just think he just has more in the same way that, you know, with rock and roll version 2, he's a little bit more interesting just because of color palette and accessories. I think Wetsuit is just a more compelling figure than Torpedo is. Now, if they sort of stay with the OG stuff, and I could see them doing Torpedo, and I think Torpedo would be like a really, really great looking figure anyway. But I just think Wetsuit might be the more interesting figure. Been watching the Sunbow cartoons recently. And yeah, Wetsuit is in way more than the other scuba guys. Yeah, I mean Deep Six is in there a fair bit, but he's not in his like version 1 outfit most of the time. He's in sort of scuba gear. Expect Copperhead. Copperhead is kind of one of those where he kind of crosses over, right? He's the driver for the water moccasin, but he's sort of around a lot, and I don't really, in a weird way, I don't really connect him with the water moccasin in the way that like the Stinger driver. Like if you get a Stinger driver and no Stinger, kind of, I mean, is a nameless character, right? The named characters, Wild Weasel, Ace Two Pack. Yes, I mean I don't think we're gonna get a Sky Striker, and I don't think we're gonna get a Rattler. If they did a 2-pack for pilots, I'd be okay with that. Like I said, I think both of those designs are really, really cool. Those figures are really great figures in and of themselves. You know, I have an Ace on my figure display shelf, and I've got a Wild Weasel on my figure display shelf, and I don't have a Rattler and a Sky Striker. There's just not enough room. So, just popping in to say hi. Well, hello. How's it going? Python Patrol Copperhead first. Yes. You know, that brings up another thing because I've seen people sort of comment about that too. Um, you know, could we get the no, I don't know what his name is, but could we get, you know, the Tiger Force Shipwreck as the first release of Shipwreck? Could we get the like you mentioned, Chris, the Sonic Fighters paint deco for rock and roll before we get sort of a standard rock and roll? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But the pre-paints, you know, love them or hate them, the pre-paints are a genius marketing move. Um, I don't know. It's Brazilian, right? I think. So I'm not sure of how they pronounce their J's in Portuguese, um, but yes, that is the name of the Tiger Force decoed shipwreck, who also came with long sleeves instead of those short rolled up sleeves. Maybe could we see that? So far we've seen straight. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've just seen sort of straight repaints for the pre-decos, and any figures that have been redecoed so far have just been straight repaints. They haven't really changed anything. So that would be an interesting one. Would they go with the long sleeves versus the short sleeves from Shipwreck version 1? Who knows? I'd probably buy both, so it doesn't really matter. Which sort of brings me back to pre-paints. The genius of that marketing, of releasing, you know, Tiger Force Bazooka before you release Bazooka, or Tiger Force Outback, you know, more you know, we'll get Tiger Force Outback before we get Bazooka. So let's say the Tiger Force Outback. Um, you know, everybody wants, well, I shouldn't say that. Lots of people want Outback. And by releasing the Tiger Force deco, I've said this before, by releasing the Tiger Force deco, you're going to buy it so that you have Outback. I only know of a few people who are sort of adamantly saying that they are not going to get the pre-paints. They'll wait for the standard releases. That being said, you know, we haven't really had the chance to pick them up yet, so that might change as figures start showing up. I've sort of said the same thing. I've said, I don't necessarily need the Python Patrol figures. If I get one of each, I'll be happy. I'll do a little squad. They'll be kind of their own little squad. I even have headcanon for the Python Patrol bats that is not canon. It's just in my head. But I don't need. I'm not going to be army building. I'm not going to be army building any of those Python Patrol. The 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 great thing about it is you can buy them and sort of have them to sort of have your complete line. But because they're repeats, you don't necessarily need them. But that's the genius of it. By doing a pre-paint first, they're sort of putting more pressure on us. If you want Bazooka, here's Bazooka. This is Bazooka. There's no sort of denying it. It's not like with Shipwreck, Tiger Force Shipwreck, who is Maruho. You're actually getting Bazooka in name and in look. He is Bazooka. So it comes down to, are you willing to wait, or do you need Bazooka in your collection now? And I think for a lot of people, they're gonna buy Bazooka, they're gonna buy Kondo, they're gonna buy whatever comes out to have that character in their collection, and then maybe sort of sell it off later or whatever. I am probably of this ilk as well. Give me all of it. I mean, if I'm not buying multiples, I'll still probably buy one of each of them. I hate to say it, but there still hasn't been a single one that I've even thought about passing on. Is it safe to say that we are getting a lot reveals this month? They are going live every Wednesday, correct? Yes, they are going live every Wednesday. Is what and well, I've seen their sort of name together. And Emily, no, Len Millie, whatever, call them what you want. Lenny and Emily will be doing videos every Wednesday. That is correct. Emily, that works. Call them whatever you want, so long as it is not wildly offensive. I don't know if you guys caught that. I'm not going to talk about it in depth, but there was some nasty comments, and I only saw a couple and then just stopped paying attention. But you guys are all great. The group is great. Like, it's kind of shocking to me that the group is as great as it is, if I'm being perfectly honest, with all the toxicity that there is in sort of the collector fandom as a whole. I have, we try very hard to keep it that way, and we want it that way. I mean, this is toys. It's supposed to be fun. Like, it's bananas to me that people would be like, people would be sort of personally attacking somebody about toys. That's like, this is like a brand manager. She's not even, bonkers. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, moving past that and hopefully never ever talking about it again. What can we expect for reveals for Yojo June? I don't know. That's the weird thing. I mean, this whole year has been wild, hasn't it? I mean, we thought things were starting to get back to normal. We thought we'd start seeing more product in store. We haven't. I talked to a bunch of different people in sort of a bunch of different sort of spaces, and I've seen the expected ship dates that retailers have had for these figures, and they're way off. A lot of the stuff that we still haven't gotten. Oh, okay. Sorry, we have a special guest co-host. Hold on. Oh, George decided to come for a visit. This is George. George is wearing his Grogu. Oh my goodness, he's falling all over the place. George is wearing his Grogu outfit today. Hi, bud. Hi. I don't know how long you're gonna last. You seem to be in an okay mood for now. If you get fussy, maybe we'll pass you off. Hey, what do you say? Well, this is George. He's a Star Wars fan, apparently. I can't get him on. There. Hi. He say hello? Nah, he can't say anything. But he's good. He's healthy. I think Mom needed a minute, so maybe that's why I've got him in here now. What was I talking about? Talking about reveals. What do we expect to see? Yeah, there we go. I get myself on track here. My only bet for reveals is Falcon and whatever else is in his wave. I hope so. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, Mindbender. I mean, he's been revealed, but we still don't know, you know, when he's going to be available. There hasn't been any announcement. I mean, GameStop let me reserve one, but I have no idea when. What? I know. You gotta wait. You gotta wait for. Why are you so cross-eyed? Ay ay ay. But we gotta wait until it shows up effectively, until they sort of tell us otherwise. Look at that face. I don't know why he's got that face on me now. But Mindbender, what else? I think, you know, our you know, we're always very focused on classified, right? But I think we'll see a lot of reveals. I think we'll see a couple O-ring reveals. I think we might see another Transformers crossover collaboration. I think it might have been His Tank that already posted something about that. About, I think, was it His Tank or a Transformers website? One of you probably knows. Like I said, I've been a little out of touch because of this little guy. I haven't been spending hours and hours and hours combing all the depths of the internet to sort of get the latest and greatest news. But there was sort of mention, I know, of a crossover, and I think there was speculation of who it was going to be, but I can't remember. Tristan coming through with the info here. Rumor is it's Bumblebee. Okay. Is there a rumor as to like which vehicle Bumblebee will be? Because I can't imagine that he's going to be a Volkswagen Beetle. As fun as that would be to have sort of an O-ring scaled Volkswagen Beetle with weapons on it. I don't know. What would you do? Bit of a grouchy guy here. Oh no, you're just making noise. What do you guys think of that? I passed on the Megatron His Tank, which I may live to regret because the O-ring figures are pretty cool. Part of the reason that I passed is because the Baroness, like a Baroness O-ring figure, is pretty easy to get in pretty good condition. So I wasn't as incentivized to get that one for the O-ring figure because, to be quite honest, at the price point, it was just a bit more than I was sort of willing to spend on a Transformer. Forgive me, Tristan. Forgive me, Larry. I like Transformers, but I don't love them, and so I don't necessarily need those in my collection. You know, I'd rather have, you know, a His Tank or Tristan. You're saying that Bumblebee will be a Vamp. You know, if it's a little bit less, if the price point is a little bit lower, I could go for it for sure. And Tristan says not sure which Joe B will come with yet. I think you probably mean like which Joe character. Oh, you're making all kinds of noises. What do you think is gonna come? What are you hoping for? What will they reveal? Any thoughts? No, nothing. Yeah, and going back to, sorry, this I don't know if it's all that professional to bring your children to work. And this isn't work, so it doesn't matter. Somebody said it, and where was it? I can't find it anyways. Oh, it's right there in front of me. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a Serpentor reveal this month. I wouldn't either. The only reason that it seems like a long shot to me at this point, like if you know, when everything else was sort of going on, when we got Mindbender and sort of the package art for that, stuff like that. Um, the idea of Serpentor coming in Yojo June seemed like it seemed like a lock. That being said, I think everything's getting pushed. I think scheduling for everything is so up in the air that I don't know anymore. I wouldn't be surprised, but in a weird way, I'm kind of equally feeling that I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get a Serpentor reveal. I do think we'll get a Serpentor reveal. I'm 50-50 as to whether we'll get it in June or not. Chris says, hate to be that guy, but I do know what it is and can't say. Well, I hate to be that guy as well. But because Chris knows, I know. So I'm just acting the fool as well. Chris and I both know who the Transformer will be, who the Joe character will be, what the vehicle will be. So I think I do. I mean, I know the characters. I don't know if I know the vehicle, but I bet I'll find out soon enough. But we could see, we could see other things too. We could see more reaction figures. We could see more Super 7 Ultimates. We could see any number of things. It's like I said, we're all sort of fixated on the classified stuff, but classified isn't the entirety of G.I. Joe. We could also see stuff like they could announce, that another movie or a cartoon or another video game or something else is in the works. There could be other media in the works. We will really just have to wait and see. We won't have to wait long. I mean, I believe this Wednesday's live event is essentially like the big one. And then I guess, the other weeks might be similar to what we saw in the first. But we shall see. He can't wait. He's upset because he can't wait till Wednesday. Hey, does it make you angry that we have to wait 3 more days? Yeah, I know. Your patience is, you don't have the greatest patience. Tristan, wasn't there rumors about a new cartoon or did it get scrapped? Well, that was the thing. There was rumors about a new cartoon. It was even, there was some details announced, I think, at like the Comic-Con in Brazil. But then when the movie didn't do as well as hoped or anticipated or whatever, they've been radio silent about the thing. So I don't know. I mean, I hope it's still in the works. I hope it's still. They talked about Amazon Prime was going to do live action Lady J show as well, and that was mentioned, and then nothing. It didn't. I haven't heard anything since. Do you think they need to step up a little bit? It's 40th anniversary. I feel they need a little more spectacle. June hopefully will cover that. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing is like, what could they do? What do people expect? What? Yeah, quick visit from George. He had other stuff he had to go do, so he's gone now. What are people's anticipations of the 40th anniversary? I always think it's one of those funny things where, like, yeah, it's the 40th anniversary, but it's still a pretty small market thing. And it's still, G.I. Joe has Joe Fest, but it doesn't have like Star Wars Celebration. I just think G.I. Joe isn't quite on the same level as something like Marvel or something like Star Wars. I think those universes are just bigger. I think there's sort of more for more people, if that makes sense. And so the diversity of the fan base, I think, is bigger. And by extension, the number of people in the fan base is bigger. I'm happy to get anything, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I'm always the optimist. I'm always excited for whatever. And even if it's stuff that I don't like, right? Like I keep talking about how how great, you know, those Super 7 Ultimates are, but I'm not really, that's not really my jam. I don't really need the cartoon accurate. I don't, you know, I'm never going to have a shelf of like Super 7 stuff. That being said, I have several Super 7 figures and I got Snake Eyes on order, but, um, you know, they could come out with some more amazing figures in that line, and I'm still not going to jump on that. The O-ring stuff, I'm not army building O-ring stuff. I'm buying, you know, bits and pieces here and there. I did get the Valentine's Day cards. You know, there's odd things that I'll pick up, um, and others that I'll pass on. Classified is the one that I'm excited about, and I do think we're getting lots of figures, and I think we'll get some more reveals. But yeah, as far as the spectacle for the 40th anniversary, I just don't know what I mean. I guess it's kind of that thing where like we live it, like I've sort of been talking about with sort of other aspects of GI Joe, right? Like we live in this world where um everything is so immediate and everything is at our fingertips. So like like if they've done nothing yet this year, and then Yo Joe June was like this big massive thing, and it was 2 hours long, and there was prizes, and it was, and the figures were available right away. You know, it's like, oh, go to the store; they're there now. While they were stocking the shelves while you were watching this kind of thing, and then nothing else for the rest of the year. Like, would that be the way to get more sort of like spectacle out of it? I don't know. I just don't. I don't know what. I don't know what it could be. I don't know what people's sort of expectations are when people are sort of let down by what they do. I don't know what people's expectations are. Like, that's, I don't know. I don't know how to say it any better than that. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense, or does that not make sense? Um, and if you're, I mean, I think that's you, Tyler. You know what do you think? What are your expectations? Maybe that's it. Maybe I just don't have any expectations, and so whatever they do, I'm happy with. But maybe you have expectations. Let me know. Um, Chris says, yeah, nothing since the Brazil licensing expo. That's what it was. I thought it was Comic-Con, but it was a licensing expo. They have the movie in theaters. Yes, if you're lucky enough to be in the U.S. and in a city where they're doing the movie. I mean, I have the video. I have the movie on Blu-ray, so it's sort of like, you know, I guess that's part of it too. Is like 40th anniversary. I'm like, oh great, that's cool that it's the 40th anniversary. But I mean, I have the vintage toys. I have the box set of the show. I have the movie on Blu-ray. Um, they like, I don't know what they could show me that I don't have or that I haven't seen before, apart from some new figures. Um, I just had a thought, but I'll try to keep that in my head while I do this. His tank Megatron has a built-in repaint retool as well. Can't say too much besides that, but I hope it sells well, that we get more Transformers collabs. Oh, so you're saying that they could reuse that Megatron? Well, that's interesting. I mean, I'm curious to see what they would do with it, or what they could do with it. I have to say this too, that like I have the Earthrise Megatron, and it's a fantastic figure. That Megatron just seems clumsy and clunky, and the transformation doesn't look very good. I got back into Transformers when the Earthrise Optimus came out, because his transformation as robot mode looked so good and so clean. And then I sort of bought a whole bunch, as a result. I have a whole shelf of Transformers, and I'm not a Transformers guy. I just like, I need the Transformers in 2022. I need the Transformers to look awesome in the robot mode. Um, Not clumsy and clunky and like, oh, you take this big chunk off of the figure. Like, it has to all transform. It has to all work for me. Tristan, I hope you can understand what I'm saying, because you're a Transformers guy. Chris, I believe the Snake Eyes movie affected all of the in-development media that was revealed around that time. They probably went back to the drawing board with all of it. Yes, I suspect that is very likely the case, for better or worse. I mean, maybe they'll still come back. They just have to retool. But We're 5 days in and we haven't seen the main event yet. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they could surprise us. Um, keep in mind too that like of the, when they've done PulseCon and when they've done like when you watch, um, the Marvel reveals or the Transformers reveals or the Star Wars reveals, the GI Joe team does the best job of any of them. So, again, not to kind of stroke their egos or anything like that, but like they do a fantastic job, and I just don't know what more people kind of want. Um, Movies and theaters, that's true, but even just Instagram, some 82 characters with backgrounds and history don't have to be big spectacle. So you're just saying like just more content. You just want more stuff. Yeah, I could see that. I could see. Um, I mean, there's enough figures that they could do. Um, Even if they, yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea now that I think of that. Like, and they could do the GI Joe Instagram could have done a post with like the figure and the file card. Um, one per week, like every Saturday morning they could have posted one. But maybe they just looked at, maybe they thought of that. Maybe they just didn't. Maybe it didn't land. Maybe it didn't seem worthwhile to them. I don't know. But I think what you're saying is you just want more. You just want more stuff, which just fair. But again, Yojo June, I think 2 years ago, there was sort of a reveal every day, but it didn't mean that the reveal was like a reveal of a figure every day. I think we've gotten, I mean, Chris would probably know this better than me. And I mean, I don't know if he has compiled this or not, but it seems like we've gotten more videos and sort of more stuff this year than in past years already. And June, I guess by extension, might seem like it's just not as good because, like I said, we're just sort of inundated by this stuff. We have a tendency to set really really high expectations, um, because we always want it to be more than sort of the last time, I guess. So. Tristan, my expectations are that we see some cool stuff that gets us excited. That's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like, it's just cool. It's just cool that the GI Joe is in the mainstream again. It's cool that there's any news about GI Joe. I'm here for it. I'm all for it. For sure, His Tank Megatron is trying way too hard to be both cartoon Megatron and a His Tank. Should have been more of a hybrid design. Personally, I'm still buying it though. Yeah, I knew you would, Tristan. Because it's a Transformer and it's GI Joe, so it scratches both of those itches for you. Chris, got to bounce, but great stream, pal, and have a great week. Thank you, Chris. I look forward to any and all content that you put out this week as well. Thank you for joining us. We're at 56 minutes. We got a few more minutes. Is there anything that I, haven't talked about because I've been away for a month that you guys want to talk about? Is there anything that you want to talk about in more detail? Questions, comments? Fire away. Yeah, I thought you were gone, but you're not. First year was one event with a single cute post daily and then some license reveals. Second year upped that to a degree, but we had the movie, so that was filling the gaps. Yes. Yeah, I think they're doing a fair bit. You know, I guess maybe they coulda, shoulda, woulda waited on the O-ring stuff till this year. Maybe. But but I mean, as far as product that we've gotten, we're getting more stuff this year than we have. Well, theoretically, we're getting more reveals. We're getting more, so there's just more stuff. It's just, Chris, yeah, this year is already more than previously because they're doing multiple events. Yes, exactly. So so Chris is really gone now. Okay. Last year, Joe June, there was really one event, right? There was other stuff. There was sort of build up stuff, but there was only essentially one live event, which was, I think, in like the third week of June. So we had to wait till the end of the month, more or less, to really get the big show. This year kicked off June 1st. We got the Instagram live, short and sweet. I thought the best part of that if you guys have seen it, Lenny uh, didn't open. It was apparently it was already open, but Lenny put together a vintage Thunder machine, and he was like so obsessed with it. He was just so fixated on it. He wasn't paying attention to anything else that was going on. I thought that was pretty funny. But we got those. We got those. The little nugget of rock and roll and shipwreck last week. Um, and then we'll get more on Wednesday, and who knows what we'll get on Wednesday, but it's meant to be sort of the big event, I believe. I could be wrong, but then we're gonna have more the Wednesday after that and the Wednesday after that. So we're at 58 minutes. We're just about at an hour. Maybe we'll leave it there. And I'll say this: I will be back next week, and we will talk about what we got on Wednesday. And then maybe at the end of the month, we'll sort of do a Yojo June in review. We'll look at sort of the whole month and see whether we thought it met uh, fell short of or exceeded our expectations at that point. I think we still have quite a bit of the month left, so I'm not going to say that this Yojo June was a success or a failure just yet. I'm more inclined to wait out the month and sort of let them to sort of see what they've got for the rest of the month. But as always, guys, it was great to be on here with you guys. It was great to be back. I hope to have a co-host next week and going forward. My plan, my hope is that I can have a co-host every week. It makes the videos a little bit more fun, a little bit more dynamic, and I don't ramble on as much. So that's my hope. But and we may go from every week to every second week. I'm gonna do one every week for June, but then come July, I may do every second week. But we shall see. That remains to be seen in the future. The details will work themselves out. Thank you guys for joining me. I will talk to you next week. And if not sooner, I mean, if they blow us away on Wednesday, who knows? Maybe I'll do something sooner. But again, thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon.